Hi, I'm Rachel and I am a neurophysiotherapist and Pilates teacher, and I worked at the Chilterns MS Centre for 3 years running their Pilates studio. So whilst we're all on self-isolation, I wanted to share a video that would be appropriate for those of you with MS. This is a series for those of you that are able to stand. You might not have full movement in one or either of your legs or arms, and then you can just modify that as you need to, and I will make reference to modifications where necessary. So we're going to stand with our feet just hip width apart, spread the toes, and here just notice the space between them, and we're going to rock from our toes to our heels, just finding some length through the body. And then if you feel able to close your eyes, then do, and you can just notice what muscles are working to bring you forward and back. If it's difficult for you to close your eyes, then just keep them open. And then make this movement smaller and smaller until you've got even weight through the big toe, little toe and heel bones. And just imagine these feet like roots anchoring down through the floor into the earth. And as we reach those arms overhead, just find that nice length through the spine and breathe into the sides of the ribcage. Notice any locking sensations in the legs and just soften them. And now we're going to place our hands behind the back of our head, and I want you to just give yourself a gentle double chin. That doesn't mean you're looking down. Looking on the horizon, you just gently press back, and that will give you a little bit more length through the crown of the head. Then here I want you to slide those shoulders towards your ears, again without tension, and then let them melt away. Then with those shoulders just melted away, try and lengthen these fingertips up towards the ceiling, keeping those shoulders melting away from you. Then we bring those arms down and reach, keep the shoulders melting away from you, hands behind your head, keep the back of the skull into those hands, slide those shoulders up, then melt those shoulders away. Keeping those shoulders melting away, reach those fingertips. Let the arms swing and reach. Hands behind your head. Slide up. Glide away. Fingertips reach and swing. Last one, we reach up. Hands come behind your head. Slide the shoulders up. Glide them away. And then we're going to keep the hands here and we're going to sink into a little squat. So I want you to imagine you're sliding your back down an imaginary wall behind you. Watch that the knees don't roll in, okay? Keep them out over your second toes. And then notice if your tailbone is ducked out or your ribs have lifted. Just drop the tailbone underneath you and anchor or soften the ribs down towards your waist. And here, even weight through the feet. We're going to imagine headlights on our hip bones staying facing forward as we rotate up and out the waist to the side here. So I've kept my knees and hips forward. I'm rotated through the upper body. Then just close those elbows and open them. Close and open. Last one, little close and open, and then we rotate back to center. Keep those elbows open as you rotate the same side, back to center. No shifting through the feet or through the pelvis. The only bit that's moving is the upper body. Last one, we rotate and back to center. And now just let the elbow reach up towards the ceiling and the other elbow draws into your waist. Imagining your upper body just sliding side to side along that wall. Side to bending, back to center and side bend. And back to center. Well done. Press through those feet. Reach those arms, keep melting those shoulders away from you. Then let them swing and reach. Hands come behind your head again. Slide the shoulders up, melt them away. This time keeping those hands behind your head, we sink into a little squat. Even weight through the feet. And this time we rotate up and out the waist. No shifting of the body weight. Keep those knees stacked over those feet. Open wide through the elbows here, and then we close and we open. We close and we open. Last one, close and open. Rotate back to center and open. Back to center, rotate. And last one. Back to center. Then we side bend over and back to center. And again, this is just your upper body. So you're controlling the pelvis, knees stacked over those ankles, and you're just side bending through the upper body. And switch. Back to center. Then press through the heels, come up, reach those fingertips. And then we're going to come into our roll down. So give yourself that double chin, curl down through the upper back, mid back, lower back, soft knees, and just lift the tailbone and swing those arms with a little bit of momentum. Let gravity bring them to a stop and rock the head left to right. And then let it hang. And just notice here I've got slightly more weight in the balls of my feet. My toes are spread and I've got even weight across the bridges of the feet. So you might find you're rolling onto the outside edge of one foot. Just try and find that even connection. And then from here, roll that tailbone underneath you. And you're trying to roll that tailbone towards your heels, trying not to take your bottom back, but restack hips, stacked over knees, over ankles, and then curl through that mid-back. And then here, my head's still resting on my chest, and then I peel up through the lower third of my cervical spine, mid-third, and then the upper third, looking on that horizon, and reach those arms up, softening and melting those shoulder blades away from you. Bring those arms out wide here, and I want you to imagine little weights in the palms of your hands, and then bring them slightly forward of your shoulders, just so your shoulders are offloaded. And now I want you to imagine little weights on the base of your shoulder blades. We're going to circle here, just rolling those arm bones in those sockets. Feeling a connection at the corners of those shoulder blades, long neck, and then switch and circle the other way. Nice, and hold. Then here we're going to close these arms together, but I want you to imagine a bow across the front of your shoulders, keeping the width as you close. And then inhale, feel a nice expansion into the front of the chest. And then exhale. This time, inhale, expand, slide your back down that imaginary wall. Exhale, press and close, open chest. Inhale, press through the floor, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale. Last one here. And close. Turn the palms to face one another, and then come into some scissor arms. As one arm comes down by your hip, the other one just lengthens overhead. And then back to center. Reach here. And again, my shoulder isn't coming with me. It stays melting down the chest wall. Back to center, melt the shoulder blade down the chest wall. Back to center, last one. and then back to center. So here we're going to come into a heel rise with those scissor arms. If that's difficult for you, you could always put your back against a wall or have a little chair in front of you. So from here, try not to travel forward with your body weight, but go straight up to the ceiling, leaving the arm and the crown of the head up as you sink down through your heels, bringing those arms back to center. And then here we rise up, and then we lower, rise up, and lower. And again, you might notice that you're taking your weight onto the outside edges of the feet. Really try and find the big toe, and back to center. Or imagine that you've got a little ball between your heels or a balloon, and you're squeezing that between the ankles as you come up. Well done. Last two here. And last one. Nice, back to center. Reach those arms up, give yourself a double chin. So first, as you start to roll down here, think about the upper third of the neck. So a little double chin to drop the nose, then into the mid third of the neck, and then start to roll that chin towards your chest. Then curl the ribs in towards your spine and round. Soft knees, and then hang here. Lift that tailbone to deepen the stretch through the back of the legs. Even weight through the bridges of the feet, and then roll that tailbone down towards your heels. Curl and restack through the low back, mid back, upper back, peeling that chin away from the chest, and roll the shoulders back. So after having done those heel raises, we're going to come into a nice calf stretch. So here, making sure that the feet are on the parallel line tends to be, as we come into a calf stretch, that the heel rolls in across the midline. So keep it out, and we want the back leg to be nice and straight. So for some of you that are a little bit weak, maybe in the thigh and hamstrings, you might find that this leg almost snaps back into hyperextension. If that's the case, you need to just soften the knee a little bit. For those of you that tend to find your knee does drop into a bent position, then you're going to need to maintain the extension. So just find the position where your leg is nice and straight, and then we lunge forward on the front leg, keeping that tailbone underneath you. Now again, you might need a wall for a little bit of balance here. Or I want you to try and find the position that's comfortable for you. So if you widen the feet apart, that's going to give you a little bit more balance. If you have them right on a tightrope, then you're going to find that that's more challenging. And again, if you have a very wide stance front to back, then that's going to feel more challenging as well. So you might find it better to make it a smaller position front to back, but a wider position side to side. So find a position that you feel is challenging your balance, but isn't so difficult that you're wobbling all over the place. And it might be that just being in this position is challenging enough for you. Okay? But otherwise, we're going to see if we can nice and slowly take these arms up and overhead. And then we're going to add in some eye and head and neck movements. So I want you to see if you can start to look up and then let the nose and the head follow the movement and look up. Then let the eyes start to look down and let the nose, chin drop, head look down. So we're following our eye movement, trying to keep that movement through the eyes nice and smooth. And then back down. One more here, we look up and we look down. So if it's too much in this staggered standing, then you can always do it with just feet on the parallel line. Come back to the middle and now bring those arms out in front of you. Make sure you're still lunged forward on this front leg. And now from here, we're going to track our eyes to one side. Follow the eyes with the nose and then the head. Then the eyes start to look the other way. Smooth tracking. And turn. Start to look the other way and follow. And then look the other way and follow. Back to center, then step through and reach up. I'm going to just step back so you can see me in the screen. And then here we're going to roll down through the spine, soft knees, curl through the back, and then hang, lifting that tailbone, deepening the stretch through the back line. And then start to roll that tailbone underneath you, curl through the low back, mid back, upper back, peeling that chin away from the chest. Roll those shoulders back. There. So we're going to step back with the other leg here. Lunge forward on the front leg, and again check that the heel hasn't come across the midline. Adjust for you to where you can maintain your balance. Tailbone underneath you. Back leg presses or the heel presses down into the floor to keep the leg straight. We take the arms up, soft shoulders. Then look up, follow with the nose and the head. Look down, follow with the nose. Chin onto your chest. Look up. Look down and follow. Look up. Look down. Follow with the nose, chin and chest. Come back to center. Bring those arms out in front of you. Melt those shoulder blades away. Then here we look to one side. Nose and head follows the movement. Look to the other side. Look. And look. Back to center, step forward, and then from here, breath in. Exhale, we roll down through the spine, curl through the upper back, mid back, low back, and hang here. Swing those arms with a little bit of momentum, and let gravity bring them to a stop. And we're going to come through into a downward dog. If it's difficult for you to do the downward dog, you could always do this onto a chair or stool in front of you. But otherwise, we're going to come down with our hands slightly wider than our shoulders. Okay, and glide the shoulder blades down the chest wall and sink through the breastbone. Let the head hang heavy. Rise up onto those tiptoes. And again, find the inner borders of the feet. So try not to roll onto the outside edges. So we've offloaded the back line and now into a walk series. So we're going to sink through one heel, and as we let that heel drop down, you're lifting your tailbone up towards the ceiling. So we pay out through that back line. Hold that stretch, so don't go quickly here. Rise up, and now keeping that weight through that inner border of the foot, sink through the heel, push back through the hands and lift the tailbone up to the ceiling. Rise up and switch. Hold. Rise up and switch. Rise up. Sink both heels away. Making sure your shoulder blades are gliding down the chest wall, sinking through the breastbone. No tension through the head and neck. Inhale and hold. And then exhale, fold those knees in underneath you, flatten those feet and drop into a nice shell stretch. Soft elbows, let the head hang heavy. And breathe into the back of the rib cage there. So from here, just curl that tailbone underneath you, and we're going to come and face forward, and you might want a towel or a cushion under your knees to come into two-point kneeling. Tuck that tailbone underneath you so you stack your rib cage over the pelvis. And then from here, we're going to look at a little bit of lateral work through the rib cage, and then also a little bit of a stretch through the front of these hips, because these get a little bit tight with all the sitting that we're probably doing at the moment. So the first thing I want you to do is bring those arms out in front of you and then bring them out wide. Turn those palms upwards to face the ceiling, and then just bring them slightly forward of your shoulders so you're not putting them on a strain. And then what I want you to do is just slide your rib cage across. Now what tends to happen is people side bend down. You're not, you're reaching those fingertips towards where the ceiling meets the wall and creating length through this side of the waist. And then come back to center, gliding the rib cage back to the middle. Then reach to the ceiling meets the wall and find the length through this side, so you're not collapsing, it should feel longer. Back to center and reach. Gliding from one side to the other. And the rib cage shouldn't be lifting, it should be funneled down towards your waist. Just shifting the rib cage side to side. Last two here. Reach, back to center and reach. Well done. Then bring your arms out in front of you again, keeping the width across the front of the shoulders. Little baby chick in your palm of your hand. And now what I want you to be aware of is even weight through your knees. And notice how much weight you've got through the back of the feet, okay? You're not changing this at all. We're going to super slow, take a baby chick in that palm, and you're turning your breastbone. Headlights on your hip bones, stay facing forward. And try and take that arm as far back as is comfortable for you behind you without changing the weight through your knees or your feet. And then come back to center. Two more here, same side. Hips stay facing forward, nice and slow. Don't change the weight through your knees. Don't change the weight through your feet. Just see how far you can go back without losing your balance or transferring your weight. One more here, open up. And then back to center. Other palm, baby chick in that hand, watch it. Even weight through those knees and feet. And back to center. Two more. Open up, no difference of balance through the knees or the feet. Last one. Well done. Then bring those arms up, breath in. Exhale, nosedive, curl. Now hold here, keep your feet down on the floor, but you're going to reach those hands out in front of you. So I don't want my pelvis to rock back. Keep it where it is and reach the hands out in front of you without the toes coming away from the floor. That's hard. Bring those hands out in front of you and just round into the spine, chin on your chest, breath in. And then lift the tailbone, sink the belly, kiss those shoulder blades together and look up. And here, just bite the teeth together gently so that you get a stretch through the front of the neck. And then let that head roll back down. Breastbone in towards your spine. Curl through the body and sit back here onto your heels, soft elbows. So then from here, coming back onto those knees, just tuck that tailbone underneath you. I want you to place your hands on your hip bones and then on the corners or the base of the rib cage. And I want you to just take a breath in and then imagine trickling water running down your breastbone, just funneling the ribs down in towards your waist so that you feel you've got a tension from your thumbs to your fingers, just anchoring those ribs down towards your waist here. Keep that tension like you've got springs or ropes just holding that tension there. And then from here, tailbone stays underneath you, we lean back in one movement. So it's the front of the thighs doing the work, and then you come back to center. And what I want you to do is make sure that the tension through the front of the waist here doesn't change. So you don't want your ribs to lift and that front line tension to lengthen. Lean and come back. Lean, keep those ribs funneled in towards your waist. And if you're noticing that you are changing that and that you're tending to lift through the rib cage or lean back, then just work at keeping that connection. If you feel you've got that, bring your arms out in front of you and lean here. And again, lean back to center. 2 more. And last one. And then from here we're going to finish with a slightly trickier challenge. So again, stay at the level that works for you. If you're struggling at that level, stay there. Otherwise we're going to lean and then take the arms in line with our ears, melting those shoulder blades away from you. Then bring them back down. Then bring yourself forward. We're going to do one more there, or stay at one of the previous levels. That's okay. Hold. Reach up. Back down with those arms, then bring yourself forward. Well done, reach up there and then curl back down through the spine. Soften those elbows and drop into a shell stretch. So we curl through the spine and come back up, placing those knees on that head cushion or towel, whatever you've got there, and tuck your tailbone under. So now we're going to stretch out through these hips. I want you to imagine your pelvis like a bucket of water, and you don't want it to slosh from side to side. And you're going to transfer your weight over onto one leg and bring the other leg through, stacking your heel under your knee. Now if you found that difficult and you can't do it, please use a sofa or a stool and help the leg through if you need to. So drop that tailbone underneath you so that you get a nice stretch through the front of the hip, and place your hand on your knee. Reach your arm up to the ceiling here, and then we're going to side bend over the midline. Keep tucking that tailbone underneath you and you'll get a lovely stretch through the side of the body. And then back to center. And one more here. We side bend over and back to center. Then from here, walk the front foot forward so you can see your forefoot and your toes, and then lunge forward here, sinking through this hip, getting a nice deep stretch there. And I want you to imagine a little bit of avocado under this heel. You're going to push back, but through the heel, not through the ball of the foot, to come back. If you need something to hold on to here to do this, then do. If you're feeling okay, bring those arms out in front of you and lunge forward. Push through the heel, not through the ball of the foot, to come back. And then if that feels okay, take the arms overhead and then push back. Reach, push back, reach. Tailbone stays underneath you. Try not to let that rib cage lift and flare. And then back. This last one here, we're going to come forward and hold. Stay low through this hip. And now bring your hands to the inside of this leg. So not either side of the foot, both hands to one side of the foot to the inside, so that your shoulder and knee can glue together. Then from here, roll onto the outside edge of the foot, opening the knee, back to center, open. And I haven't let my body come back, I'm still lunged forward through that hip. Back to center. Then just shuffle the hand a little bit closer to the foot, and the hand nearest the thigh, wrap it round and glue your breastbone to your thigh bone. Stay nice and glued as you try and straighten this leg, keeping your back as straight as possible. Keep your body glued to your thigh. Don't let it come away because you'll offload the stretch into your hamstring. So hold there. And now if you feel able and you've got the balance, lift the foot. Still trying to take your tailbone out behind you. Then lower that foot, bring the hands down either side, and now use your hands just to support you as you bring the foot back a little bit. Keep your body folded over your thigh. And now I want you to tuck your tailbone under. You're not taking your weight back. Keep your hips stacked over your knee. And now see if you can start to balance and come up. Head stays as relaxed as possible as you restack. And then peel that chin away from the chest and balance. Hands back on your hips if you feel able to bring the leg down. If not, use some support. Bring the other leg up. So heel stacked under the knee. Tuck your tailbone under and reach your arm overhead. Side bend across the midline. Back to center. And again, cross the midline. Back to center. Bring the arm down and now walk the foot just a touch forward so you can see the forefoot and your toes. And then we lunge forward. The weight's going through the heel, not the ball of the foot, to push back. Lunge, tailbone underneath you, push back. If that feels okay, arms out in front of you. If that feels okay, lunge and reach without the rib cage flaring. Don't hinge through the middle of your back. Keep the rib cage funneled down and just reach through the arms. And then last time we lunge forward and hold. Bring the hands down to the inside of the leg. The knee glues to the shoulder and then we roll onto the outside edge of the foot, opening the knee and bringing it back. Open, come back, last one. And back to center. Shuffle that outside hand in a little bit and wrap the nearest hand around the thigh bone. Flatten your back and now send your weight back, straightening the front leg, deepening the stretch into the hamstring. Flare your sit bones, stick your bottom out, and now lift the foot if you feel able. If not, you don't need to. If you need to have more of a stool or something to hold on to, then do. Then lower the foot. Then bring both hands down. Shuffle the leg back a little bit, but keep your body resting over your thigh. And now tuck your tailbone under. So you're not taking your body weight back. You're staying forward, but you're restacking. Through the low back, mid back, upper back. Peel that chin away from the chest and balance. Hands on your hips, don't slosh the water. If you need to, you can use a hand or support the leg down. Reach up, breath in, and then exhale, nose dive out in front of you. And then soften those elbows, sit back on your heels and rest here. Breathe into the back of the rib cage. So we're going to come into the side series here, and to do that use your mat as a little bit of a guide so you're not on a skew. Find your hip bone and just lay that down in the middle of the mat, okay? And then use the seam line of your clothes to come down through the middle of your mat, and then place your head at the front edge of about 4 inches of head cushion here, so you can roll up a big chunky towel. Stack your shoulders one on top of the other, and now I want you to imagine you were in a chair if you were sat upright. So I want your knees to come forward so that your hips and knees are in a nice straight line, and then your feet are going to rest along the length of the mat rather than in towards your sit bones, okay? So just lengthen them out. Now it tends to be that this top knee glides back of the bottom knee. I want you to really slide that leg slightly forward so that the knees are stacked level one on top of the other, and you've got this length through your thigh bone. Let your neck be nice and long and your head heavy, and place your hand on top of your other hand. From here, we're going to open this arm up to the ceiling and allow your head to roll round the cushion to look at that hand up at the ceiling. Watch that your knee hasn't slid back, okay? So you're trying to keep the knees glued on top of each other. And now from here, I want you to just reach those fingertips up towards the ceiling, gliding that shoulder blade off the chest wall. And now with relaxation, imagine this arm, it hasn't got any bend at the wrist or at the elbow, it's one long rod, and it just sinks into the shoulder socket. And it's not your shoulder coming up towards your ear, it just glides nice and gently without tension or fixing. Just drop the shoulder blade onto the chest wall. So we reach and we glide and we reach and we glide, nice and slow and nice and relaxed, no tension here. Last one, reach and then connect. Now you feel that arm bone sunken into that shoulder socket. We're going to try and turn the torch on our breastbone up to the ceiling. So as we do this, it feels that our shoulders are trying to rest back on the floor underneath us. And because we're rotating the upper body, the arm will move back. But I'm not pulling my arm out to the side. I'm actually using the arm bone sinking into that socket to help me rotate my shoulders. And my shoulders won't both touch the floor because we don't have that much rotation through our back. But you're trying to get the shoulders to touch the floor. And just nudge the knee forwards. It hasn't slid back with you. So it's your tummy muscles and length through that thigh bone that maintains the knees one on top of the other. Inhale and hold, lovely spiral through the spine, and then exhale to close. So this time, keep that arm bone sunk in its socket as you turn the torch on your breastbone up to the ceiling. Let the head roll around the cushion and look at those fingertips behind you. Inhale and hold. And then exhale to close. Last one here, we open up, arm bone sinks into that socket, trying to take the shoulders back. Inhale and hold. And then exhale to close. Then take your top hand and place it between your knees. Again, make sure the knees are stacked on top of one another. And here we're going to squeeze or just try and squash your hand. And then gently release. As you start to release, you're going to lift that knee away. My feet, as you can see, are still glued together. And what tends to happen as a cheat as you go onto your toe, really keep the heels glued together. And then lower down. Even if it means you can't come as high, just keep the heels glued. Now I'm squeezing and squashing my hand. Hold. And now release. And this time, as you lift the leg, think about this thigh bone getting longer. So it shouldn't retract back in towards you, but should lengthen. And then lower and squeeze. So we lift. And then we lower and squeeze. All the time my thigh bone is lengthening away from me and I'm controlling the pelvis. So don't lift and then the pelvis roll back and that's how you're creating the lift. We want to use these muscles at the side of the hip. So really think that even I would rather you control the pelvis still and lift less than I would you lift and just roll the whole pelvis back and then squeeze. So you could do this up against a wall to stop your pelvis from rolling back. And lower. Last two here, lift and squeeze and lower. And last one, lift and then squeeze and lower. Well done. So for those of you that did find that tricky, it's okay just to do the squeezes, okay, if it's difficult to lift. So from here we're going to repeat that the other way. So pick up and bring your head cushions to the other side of the mat. And again, using the mat to help you, find the hip in the center. Use the seam line of your clothes to come down straight. And then find your head resting at the front edge of the head cushions. Your knees in line with your hip, like you'd be sat in a chair out in front of you. And then your feet just resting along the parallel line of the mat. Slide the top knee forward so that these knees are stacked one on top of each other, and you've got a little bit of length through this thigh bone. And rather than just collapsing so that this rib cage is heavy on the floor, just see if you can lift that bottom rib away from the mat to lengthen this top hip away from you. So we're using our tummy muscles to find length through both sides of the waist. Hands come together, head and neck in line with the spine, long neck. We then roll the head round the cushion as we take the arm up to the ceiling. Then reach those fingertips. Then the arm bone doesn't have any ability to bend at the wrist or the elbow. You're just gliding the arm bone back into its socket. So we reach and just slide the shoulder blade on the chest wall. Reach and slide. Reach. Keep looking at those fingertips. Reach. Last two here. Reach and glide. Last one. Reach and glide. Hold there. Make sure these knees are stacked one on top of the other, and then we're trying to turn that torch on your breastbone up to the ceiling, taking the shoulders to the floor, and the arm comes back because you've rotated through the upper body. Keep the arm bone sunk in its socket rather than just letting this arm hang and swing. So I haven't got a stretch across the front of the chest. I've got a spiral through my upper back. Inhale and hold, and then exhale to close. And again here this time, keep that arm bone in its socket as you open up, taking the shoulders to the mat. Inhale and hold. Exhale to close. Last one. And then close. Bring this hand and place it between your knees. Make sure those knees are stacked on top of one another. And then we squeeze, hold, and then release. Keep the heels and the toes glued together and lift. Only lift as far as you feel able. Squeeze, squash that hand. And then as you lift, you're controlling the pelvis. It doesn't roll back towards you. You're keeping a length through this thigh bone as you lift the leg, and then squeeze. Lift. And then squeeze. Lift. And squeeze. Lift. So even if you can't lift that leg away from the bottom leg, just squeeze and then just lighten away from that bottom hand. You'll still be activating those muscles. Last one, squeeze and lift, and then lower back down. Nice. From there, we're going to go on to our front. And if you've got a couple of towels, then you can put one cushion underneath your tummy, which you might find, so hip bones and pubic bone on the cushion. What we're trying to do is help you so that you don't arch and dip into the back. You want more of a round spine. So adjust that cushion to help you drop your tailbone almost over the top of it and away from you. And then your head at the front edge of your head cushion. We're going to pop your elbows, just stack them under your shoulders. Feet just on the parallel line. And then here, all I want you to do is just slide your shoulders up towards your ears like we were doing in standing, and then slide them down your back. Slide them, let them roll forward, and let them slide away. Forward, and let them glide away. So here, once they're gliding away from you, you should feel a nice width through the front of the chest. Connect your pubic bone down into the mat, and that will help you lengthen this tailbone. So your job is to support this lower back and draw your ribs into your spine to also support it. And then here, just push the floor away, keeping wide across the front of the chest. And we're just going to hold that here. Now try not to tip the head back. I want you to try and keep your head and neck in line with your spine. So a nice double chin. That doesn't mean you hang. You just give yourself a double chin and hold. Nice. And then lower back down, trying to keep smiling through the collarbones and width through the shoulders. And again here, we're just going to do a little lift. And the weight should be a little bit more in those elbows. So push the floor away from you with those elbows, like a little push-up. Pubic bone stays connected into that cushion or on the floor, and ribs in towards your waist without rounding. So it's just the front line draws in slightly. And then lower. And then here, come up and hold. Pubic bone stays connected. Double chin, long neck, hard work. Breathe into the back of the rib cage. And then lower back down. Place your forehead on your cushions and slide your hands out long. Slide the shoulder blades down your chest wall again. And then here, just lift one arm and lower. Lift the other arm. And you're trying to keep nice and stable, not rocking from one side of the body to the other, keeping your pubic bone connected so that you're not arching into your low back. Just marching here side to side. You don't need to overlift through the arms, and if it feels too much, just bend the elbows and do it here. Last two. And if that's too much, you could just do it here, widening through the shoulders and lift. And lower. And last set. One more from each side. And down. Bring your hands under your shoulders. Push up. And then round back into that spine. Just getting flexion where we've worked into extension. And sit back onto your heels. You can rest your head on these cushions there or move them out the way. So now coming down onto our back, just come through side lying so you're not putting your back onto any pressure, and then roll onto your back. And you want maybe just a rolled up towel, maybe 1 inch thick. If you feel that your head's tipped back, or you tend to be with your head very forward when you're in standing, you might need a little bit more support. So just find that comfortable position for you where your chin isn't lifted, but is nice and soft, and you're looking directly up towards the ceiling, or if anything, slightly towards the diagonal line towards your knees. So here, just have your legs like train tracks on the parallel line, and notice for you if the feet are turned out, and just spread the toes. If it's difficult for you to maintain this leg position, perhaps wrap a band around your knees, or for some of you, you might find it more comfortable just to pop something between your knees to help support you there. So up to you if you need to do that. And we're going to place our hands on our hips. And we're going to come and just do explore some movements at the pelvis, some just gentle movements. So imagine a marble in your lower abdomen, and I want you to roll that marble into your belly button. So think about sinking your tummy inwards and then rolling back. It'll feel like your lower back imprints towards the floor. And make sure the tummy is sunken inwards. If it bulges up and out, then that marble's just going to roll off. So you want to get that sinking feeling. And then explore rolling the marble now towards your pubic bone. And it tends to be when you go this way that sometimes people use their ribs to lift away from the mat to create the arch. Just let the ribs melt down and nestle into the mat, okay? If you really can't get the rib cage down, I'd recommend again just propping yourself up slightly with some cushions behind you to the base of the rib cage. That's going to help you get these ribs down rather than them being lifted. So again, just change the position for you and pause the video if you need to put some cushions behind you. So now just keep the ribs soft. Sink that marble into your belly button so the tummy sinks inwards and we roll the pelvis back towards you. And then this time you can feel the ribs heavier here, so keep the rib cage down and explore trying to just tip the pelvis and just drop the tailbone almost into the floor to create a hollow lower down in your lower back, not up by the rib cage. So here, another nice thing you can do is make a diamond shape with your hands and put your thumbs in your belly button, your fingers down onto your pubic bone and let your hands rest wide. And then here, can you rock back? Your thumbs will drop down, so I'm just taking my hands away so you can see what happens. But as you imprint back, the thumbs drop down. And then as you roll the other way, your fingers will drop down. So we're literally rocking that pelvis back and forward, keeping the rib cage nice and still. We're isolating lower back movement. And you might find for some of you that you're really pushing through your feet, so that means you're probably not using your tummy muscles. Think more of a piece of string from your pubic bone to your belly button, and that tummy sinks inwards and they shorten to flatten your lower back. And then think about widening or someone pulling your bottom cheeks apart to create the hollow in your lower back when you go the other way. And then just find that halfway house where the pelvis really feels like it's quite comfortable. And we're going to explore a different movement through the pelvis. So I want you to imagine the pelvis as a little bit like a boat, and we're going to try and rock the boat from side to side. So if you pop your hands on your hip bones, what you're trying to do is lift one side of the pelvis straight up to the ceiling, so it's not coming back towards you, and then see if you can lower it back down. Then lift the other side of the pelvis and lower it back down. You should feel as you lift, I'm lifting the left side of my pelvis, my left knee is reaching towards where the ceiling meets the wall to create that. And then control the lowering, rock down. Then lift the right side of the pelvis. My right knee feels like it lengthens away from me and drop down. Lift and lower and lift and lower. So we're just rotating through the lower back, using our oblique tummy muscles to do this movement. And last one. And now we're going to look at lateral movement, so side to side. So feel the weight of your tailbone in the mat. And then what I want you to do is think about shortening your hip to your rib. And you'll feel your tailbone slide across the mat towards, on me, this is my left side that I'm doing first. So I've shortened through one side and lengthened through the other. And now I'm going to wag my tail the other way, shorten my right hip to my right rib cage, and my tailbone has just slid across the mat. So I'm going side to side. So I'm not lifting away from the mat. I'm wriggling from one side to the other. Wagging my tail almost into the mat. 3 more. 2, 1, and back to center. Okay, place your hands on your hip bones, and now we're going to repeat this, but we're going to do it with our pelvis just slightly hovered away from the floor. So check those feet are nice and relaxed, and then toes are on that parallel line forward, and we're going to just lift the pelvis just a little bit away from the floor underneath you. So we're going to come into forward and back first. So think about pouring the marble to your pubic bone, then pouring the marble into your belly button, sinking the tummy inwards, and then rock it forward and back. Rib cage stays heavy, so don't come too high. That breastbone has a little weight on it, and it's staying heavy. It's just the pelvis tipping forward and back. Hip bones will feel like they come up as you send the marble to your pubic bone, and then it will feel like the hip bones just sink. 2 more. Notice if you've gone onto the lateral edges of your feet. Try and get that even weight distribution through the big toe, little toe and heel bones. And then back to your neutral position and lower the pelvis. Well done, that's hard work. So then we're going to hover again, just softly through the pelvis, just lift it away from the mat. And now you're going to lift one hip bone so it's higher than the other, and then drop it back so that they're level. Then lift the other hip bone, drop it back so it's level. So it feels like that knee is just reaching away from you, and you're going to feel like you're just pressing down through that heel. So as I lift the left hip bone, I'm pushing down through my left heel. Back to center, push down through my right heel and lift the right hip. Rocking here from side to side. One hip bone lifts, and then it lowers, it lifts and lowers. One more, this is hard work. Lower, lift and lower. Lower the pelvis back down. Well done. So we've got one more set to do, which is the side to side in the opposite plane, bringing the hip towards the rib. So we hover. And now think about wagging your tail. You shorten the right hip for me to the right rib cage, and then left hip to my left rib cage. And you're not bringing the shoulder down, you're bringing the hip up. Side flexing from one side to the other. 4 more. 3, 2, 1, back to center, and then rest that pelvis down. Finish here with a bridge, so even weight through the feet, arms down by the side of you. Just roll that marble into your belly button, sink the tummy inwards, and then start to peel that spine away from the mat, 1 vertebra at a time. My rib cage stays heavy. Okay, it's my pelvis that I'm bringing up to meet my rib cage. You never want to lift the ribs and arch into the back. Should always feel like the rib cage is sinking into the bowl, but that the knees are reaching away from you. Inhale and hold here. Just soften the chin to look over your knees. And then exhale even more. Try and sink that breastbone down towards your waist, and allow each vertebra, like a string of pearls, to drop onto that mat 1 at a time. So you've imprinted, just hold here, and you finish this bridge in the position where you are rolled back and your marble is in your belly button. And now to finish it, we release out just to neutral, letting that marble rest in the middle of our abdomen. Nice. Then just bring one knee up into your chest and the other, and rock side to side here. Then let those knees drop out wide, and you can hold your ankles here and use your elbows to just push out on that inner thigh to get a stretch through the inner thigh there. And then release. Bring one leg down just into a bent position and the other. And if you've got a nice chunky cushion, you can just pop that between your knees for our hip twist. Bring your feet together and arms out at shoulder height. And from here, we're going to roll the knees in one direction and just notice my feet. I haven't left one foot straying. The foot is still stacked on my bottom foot, so they're glued together. And then I turn my head in the opposite direction, keeping my shoulder blades nestled into the mat. Then squash the cushion, draw down through the rib cage and come back to center. And we switch. Let that top foot travel on the bottom foot. Turn your head in the opposite direction, breath in. And then exhale, come back to center. And switch. Coming back to center. And switch. Back to center. Take that cushion out from between your knees and just have your feet hip width apart. Again, if you need something to support your knees, do. But place your hands on your rib cage, let your elbows come out wide. And now I want you just to focus on the breath, and we're going to look at control of the breath here. So take a gentle breath in through your nose, not trying to over-oxygenate. And then super, super, super slow the breath out through the mouth. So we're just filtering the air out, super, super, super slow, as slow as you can go. Letting the body just melt a little bit heavier into that floor underneath you. So it's a gentle breath in through the nose. And a super, super slow breath out through the mouth. And some of you might find the control really hard there. Some of you might be mouth breathers. So trying to take the breath in gently through the nose is just tricky enough. So focus there. And then really controlling that diaphragm to slow the breath out. Can be quite challenging. And then just seeing here, if with the out breath, you can let go of any tension that you notice at the back of the skull, around and across into the forehead. Just let any tension go as you let that breath just filter out. Any tension across the eyebrows or eyelids. Gentle breath in and slow the breath out down, letting go of tension. Letting go of any tension in the cheeks or jaw or lips. And just noticing how the body feels now. Bringing your awareness back into the room. Rolling onto your side. And just slowly coming onto all fours, and just take a moment there if you feel dizzy at all. And then roll back, if you're able, into your Pilates ball. And then from here, rock back onto your toes and roll those knees in towards your chest, just wrapping your spine around your knees and let your head hang heavy. Breathe into the back of the rib cage. Then breath in. Exhale, sink your heels and lift your tailbone. Hang here over your garden fence. Breath in. Exhale, start to roll that tailbone down towards your heels, curling through the low back, mid back, upper back. Peel that chin away from the chest and reach your arms overhead. Breath in. Imagine your arms like feathers floating down by the sides of the body and your head like a helium balloon floating upwards. Roll your shoulders back to finish. Well done.